On this episode, we talk about the Archers, domestic violence, and forgiveness.
Welcome to TGI Monday. This week we've had quite a topical question. Martin sent this in. He asks, can Helen Archer ever forgive herself? Well, now you might not be quite so much of an Archers fan as me, that you've got the Free the Blossom Hill one t-shirt.
Yeah, but I did ask, didn't I? You have to point out, I put in, who's Helen Archer?
Yeah.
I did say that.
So, just in case you have not been following this storyline on the Archers with quite the same enthusiasm that I have, just to kind of bring you up to speed with what's happened, Helen Archer has been in a relationship with a man called Rob for the last 2.5 years, during which time he has systematically destroyed her self-confidence, destroyed her confidence in her memory. He's lied to her, he's manipulated her, he's bullied her, he's raped her, he's hit her, he's isolated her from her friends and her family, he's tracked her phone, he's confiscated her car keys. He basically has been your total nightmare. And 2 weeks ago, maybe slightly longer by the time you see this, it all came to a head when Helen decided she was going to walk out on a temporary basis, probably, but she wanted to leave him. And Rob grabbed the kitchen knife and put it in Helen's hand and told her she was only going to leave by killing herself. There was a struggle, and in the struggle, Helen stabbed Rob. He's now in hospital, critically ill, and she has been charged with attempted murder. Just to kind of add into the mix, Helen's 5-year-old son was watching while this was all happening, and Helen is also 7 months pregnant with Rob's baby. So it's all a mess.
I've got to be honest though, she didn't look pregnant when I seen her in the Radio Times. That's what confused me.
That's the magic of radio, isn't it?
It's real.
So the question is, can she ever forgive herself? We talked about forgiveness on the show a bit before. Harold, do you want to just remind us what we mean by forgiveness? What does it mean to forgive or be forgiven?
Forgiveness is where you're not saying something doesn't matter. You're saying that the thing that happens matters, and it matters immensely, yet I still love you or I still care for you. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and you're letting go of whatever anger or...
drawing a line underneath it and moving on. It's about rebirth and rediscovering of yourself, really.
So it might be possible for somebody else to forgive Helen. What about forgiving yourself, Zoe? What does that entail, and why is that important?
Well, I always think that it's the thing that people seem to find the hardest to do. And obviously in this particular story, I mean, the struggle didn't end up in her accidentally stabbing him. She stabbed him twice.
Yeah.
And so it is made complicated. So already there's kind of, she's the pariah in the story. But it's just the easiest thing in the world to just not forgive yourself. People drag around burdens that they don't need to drag around. And obviously actions have consequences, and what happens in the legal system and the law of the land is how those consequences are usually played out, as well as personally. But so often people might find it even easier that God could forgive them, but they cannot forgive themselves. And I think that is such a thing that we perhaps don't talk about enough in church, that we have the capacity to lay down the burdens we came with. I start every funeral that I ever do by saying, there's lots of things that you may have regrets about when you come here today, but that is not the new day that we're offered by God. So take a moment of silent honesty with yourself and with your Maker to just put down any of those burdens and start again.
You write that down?
Yeah,
yes,
I'll send you the liturgy.
No, that's brilliant. Dan, I know in your work when you were a policeman, you must have dealt with cases of domestic violence and this sort of emotional abuse and situations like this. What sort of things might Helen be feeling after that event?
I mean, I've been to hundreds of these. Actually, in fact, I can't say too much, but a close family member was violent towards his wife many years ago, and she pulled a gun on him. And he said to her, "Shoot me, you bitch, shoot me." And she did.
Wow.
So, this does happen.
Yeah.
I have begged women in domestic violence situations to let me help them, and they have not allowed me to let me help them. And women who have got out of them, and men as well, because men can find themselves in these situations too, but it is mostly women, do feel a lot of guilt. There is a lot of sense of real brokenness, loss of identity, because there's a huge reliance on the person. That psychological bond can come through for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
And I don't think the forgiveness is easy, because when you feel like you've done the wrong thing, even if you've been wronged for all those years in the most horrific ways, if you feel you've done something terrible, you don't just unload that easily.
No.
And that really, for me, in ministry, is the work of the Holy Spirit. Only God can help you to have that clean conscience.
It's a daily thing too, isn't it?
It is a daily.
It's not a once thing.
And we've said this before, haven't we, on this show?
It's a journey, isn't it?
And you can imagine, particularly in Helen's situation, I think, I mean, you know, free the Blossom Hill one, I don't think she should feel any guilt for what she did to Rob particularly, but I do think the ongoing guilt for her will be Henry having seen that and watching as he grows up, the impact that has on him. And so I do think that ongoing need to forgive oneself, to admit that that's what's happened, but actually, you know, to be able to go on living.
But guilt, though, guilt's a bit like whiskey, right? Like, whiskey is great, right? A little bit of whiskey, you can't fault it. It's really nice, especially if it's like single malt or something like that, right? Really lovely, right? Yeah. Too much whiskey will kill you.
Yeah.
And will destroy everything around you. And I think the thing is, particularly in our society now, we live in a very judgmental and unforgiving society. Massively unforgiving. Where everything that you do is there forever. Like the internet, really, isn't it? It's there forever, isn't it? What I've just said is there forever, right? And I think the thing is with forgiveness, especially of yourself, is recognising the difference between guilt, which brings you to a place where you can renew your relationships with God and with those around you, and try and put right as much as you can with yourself and with God and with others, and that toxic guilt, which eats you up inside and destroys you and everything around you. And I think that's the key thing here, is to try and redirect really the guilt towards reconstruction of relationships and reconciliation, and away from that toxicity of destruction.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And so as Christians, we want to encourage people to be doing that as part of their daily practice with God, to be praying for forgiveness, to be praying for God to allow them to move on from the past just as he has forgiven them. I just want to say, picking up on your point, Dan, there are ways of women and indeed men who are being abused leaving safely. There is help out there. Please seek help. One of the amazing things that's happened as a result of the storyline in The Archers is a chap set up a Just Giving page to help women who are in the kind of situation that Helen was in, that's raised hundreds of thousands of pounds, I think.
It's a very under-resourced
and they are now selling these T-shirts. This is a pre-production one, but they are selling T-shirts and tote bags and all kinds of stuff if you'd like to help people who are in that situation. And perhaps we'll put up a link to a helpline as well. If you or someone you know needs help in this sort of situation,
and it happens in Christian homes. It happens in clergy homes. It can happen everywhere.
Yeah, don't feel that you are the only one in your situation. It happens, and you must seek help. Please, if you're going through something like that, if you had experiences of that and you'd like help, there are ways to get in touch with us through the website, through the Facebook page, and we'd love to point you in the right direction. Thank you.
Thanks for watching TGI Monday Show today. Please keep sending us your questions. We always discuss them, even if they don't get answered on the show. And follow us in all the usual places.
Easter's gone.
No, it's not.
Okay, well,
Easter tide. Come
Easter
on,
tide.
get with the liturgical calendar.